Good evening. My name is Jeff Serpa with the Hughson Fire District. What we're going to go over tonight is the PowerPoint presentation of Measure U. So I'm sure you've all seen what Measure U is, either through our mail-out flyers or coming to one of our community events. But we wanted to reach out to the community and really show what Measure U is, who the fire district is, and really what this is going to do for the community. So over my shoulder, you'll see our PowerPoint presentation. What we're going to go over is tonight's events. As again, you know, we'll introduce the speakers, PowerPoint presentation, and then we would have a question and answer session. Our next town hall style meeting will be on the 31st of May, right here at the fire station, 2316 Charles Street, excuse me. The entire public is welcome, and you'll really get to see why we need Measure U in our community. So here's what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to go over who the Hughson Fire District is, along with our paid and our volunteer staff. What does the Hughson Fire District cover? How we're governed, the current financial situation of the fire district, our current station and apparatus, how busy the Hughson Fire District is, and what does fire protection cost these days. In addition to that, we will go over what is Measure U, why do we need it, and what will Measure U do for me as a member of our community. And then we'll answer questions in conclusion. So who is the Hughson Fire District? The Hughson Fire District is an independent fire district established in 1915, which independent means we are not affiliated with any city or county. So we are independent of both the city of Hughson and the county of Stanislaus. We are one of the oldest volunteer fire departments in the county. Organized under the California Health and Safety Code, that gives us the law that allows us to organize the fire district. We currently maintain automatic mutual aid agreements with our surrounding agencies, both Ceres, Stanislaus Consolidated, Denair, and Keys. We also participate in Stanislaus County's seamless mutual aid system, meaning when any one department needs assistance on a large incident, we just basically call for the closest resources and they respond, regardless of jurisdiction. We also participate in the state of California's master mutual aid system. What that is when we have these large campaign fires such as the Thomas Fire down in Ventura County and the firestorms up in the northern end of the state, we provide personnel and apparatus to that as well, all reimbursed by the state of California. This year, in 2017, we had 2 deployments, one to the Thomas Fire down in Ventura County and one to the LNU Central Complex in the Santa Rosa area. So who is the Hughson Fire District? Our fire district is staffed by 2 paid firefighters and 30 volunteer personnel, led by Fire Chief Scott Bernard, who has a total of 24 years as our current fire chief. He is the longest tenured fire chief right now in Stanislaus County. Our captain, our other paid staff is our captain and training officer, Mike Crabtree. Beyond that, we have 30 volunteer officers and firefighters, including 1 assistant chief, 4 captains, 9 engineers, and 16 firefighters. We are one of the few remaining what I call true volunteer fire departments in Stanislaus County, meaning that our volunteer personnel do not get a single penny for responding to the emergency calls, training, and community service that we have. That allows us to keep our costs down extremely low. But again, our volunteer personnel do not get any reimbursement whatsoever. Our members donate an estimated 15,000 to 20,000 hours annually between training, emergency calls, and community events. 240 hours is what is mandated by the federal government and the state of California for our firefighting and emergency services personnel. So again, the fire district out in the community, what do we do out there besides running fire calls? We are the host agency for the Community AED program. We have 18 automatic external defibrillators out in the community. So if one of our community members were to be stricken by a sudden cardiac event, you actually have a better chance of survival than you do in a vast majority of the United States. We're out in the schools during Fire Prevention Month, which is in October. We go out and visit all of the elementary and middle schools, showing fire prevention activities and talks. We participate in the City of Hughson's Trunk or Treat, which provides a safe environment for our children to go trick or treat on or in. We participate in National Night Out. In 2017, we hit roughly 24 different parties throughout the city for National Night Out. We provide community CPR classes. And then our annual events, as everybody enjoys every December, we take Santa around town via Operation Santa. We have our annual chicken barbecue, which we just concluded. And then we also host the Elisa N. Ruck Burn Foundation Burn Camp Lunch every year, which is coming up on the 9th of June. So what does the Hughson Fire District cover? Our district is 35 square miles. 1.5 square miles of that is the city of Hughson. So if you look right here in the center of our map right here, you can see the small area that the city of Hughson encompasses. We also encompass this entire green area right here, which is roughly, it's a suburban and a rural area. So roughly the Tuolumne River to the north is our northern boundary, Faith Home Road to the west, the TID lateral just east of Downey Road, and then roughly Keys to Pioneer to Redwood Roads to the south. So it's a large area that's rural, does have a lot of nut processing facilities. We have one of the largest grain mills on the west coast, and we also have the Union Pacific line that runs through the middle of the district. So how is the fire district governed? The Hughson Fire District is governed by a 5-member board of directors that are elected by the citizens of our district to staggered 4-year terms. We currently have 5 board members. 3 are up for election here shortly, and we have 2 more for 2 years after that. We are funded through a combination of property taxes, special assessment, and developer fees. We meet monthly to establish our budget, authorize warrants, which are the checks that we provide to our vendors, establish general policy and governance. We meet here at the fire station, 2316 3rd Street, 2316 3rd Street, the second Wednesday of each month at 7 o'clock. We would like to invite the public to engage in the activities of the fire district at all times. We also maintain a 2+2 committee with the City of Hughson to keep each agency advised of policy direction and also activities that mutually benefit both the City of Hughson and the Hughson Fire District. So what is the fire district's current financial situation? Our 2017-2018 approved budget is roughly just a shade over $473,000. That comes $330,000 from property tax revenue and $145,000 from our special assessment. Now, some folks have asked, like on some of the community forums, how much property tax do we bring in? We bring in roughly 0.2% of the property tax revenue that is collected by the county. So 0.2%, that's what comes to our fire district. And then our special assessment is currently set at $46 per parcel, and that's where that $145 comes from. Our current debt service, so the cruise quarters that you see here in our picture, we purchased in the early 2000s to replace our outdated facility. Currently, we have 2 additional years on this, and we have an annual payment of about $48,000. The other debt service we have is our Type 1 engine that we purchased back in 2014. We owe $61,238 annually, so we have roughly 6 more years to go. And of note is we could not, as a fire district, afford this vehicle without the help of our volunteer association. The chicken barbecue that the community supports every year will have provided at the end of the 10 years that we are going to pay on this fire engine, will have paid for over 40% of the cost of that fire engine. So through donations and hard work of our volunteer personnel, they will provide over 40% of the funding for that particular fire engine. Being that we are an independent fire district, we do have to maintain a reserve. Current reserves are sitting at roughly $235,000. Some may say that that is a high number. However, we like to budget prudently, and because we have nobody else to fall back on, we have to carry that type of reserve in the event of a catastrophic fire where we destroy turnouts, hose, or we lose a fire engine for some reason, and we have to go out and purchase those right away. Also, as note in our financial situation, is the fire district had to start paying for dispatch services in 2015. So what that is historically the county of Stanislaus has paid for our dispatching fees. In 2015 that changed, and the county forwarded those fees off to the individual fire districts and fire departments. So historically paid by Stanislaus County. We were fortunate enough that the city of Hughson assisted the Hughson Fire District with paying for about $13,000 of our dispatch fees in 2016. So in the 2018-2019 budget that we will be working on shortly, our dispatch fees are estimated at roughly $38,000. So again, our current financial situation, we have done all we can as a fire district to obtain grant funding to purchase equipment and services. So in 2009, we were awarded a Assistance to Firefighter grant through the federal government. That was a grant that replaced all of our hose and nozzles, some of which dated back 40 to 45 years, that just could not stand service any longer. That grant was roughly $63,000, and we had to match it 10%. So we afforded a great value. From 2008 to 2017, we have been awarded a total of 6 CAL FIRE Rural Fire Assistance grants. These are grants that are what we call 50-50. So the CAL FIRE through the federal government gives us up to $20,000 in grant money. And then we have to match that 50%. Through that, we've been able to replace our structure gear, our structural firefighting turnouts that we wear, also our wildland hose, nozzles, and fittings. We have just applied for that grant funding again for 2018 and 19 to finish replacing all of our turnouts. We are mandated every year, or mandated by both state and federal law to cycle out our turnouts every so often. I'll go over that here in just a few minutes. We were also fortunate enough in 2016 to be awarded another Assistance to Firefighters grant, and this was a regional grant with 4 other fire departments in our surrounding area, and we were able to replace outdated air packs that we must wear when we enter a fire. That grant totaled for the 5 agencies $731,000, and your Hughson Fire District was the lead agency who not only wrote the grant, but purchased all the equipment and distributed it to the other agencies along with and that was a 10% match. So each agency contributed 10% of the total equipment amount that they purchased. So our current fire station, the original building on the left-hand side of the screen right here, that you'll see these 2 doors right here, was built in 1947. It's behind that facade, you'll see here in just a minute, it's a World War II era Quonset hut. The additions to the right-hand side of the building, right here, these 2 doors, and again, a portion of the building in the back were added in 1958 and 1969. The problem that we're running into with our current station is it's not built to be an essential services building. The bay doors are not big enough, they're not wide enough, the flooring is not will not sustain the heavy vehicles of today. So it doesn't meet any of the Essential Services Building Seismic Safety Act requirements. It does not meet the California Health and Safety Code or California Building Code Title 24. In addition, and almost more importantly, we do not meet Cal OSHA Title 8 and also NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, standard 1500. Now I say this is actually more important than the Essential Services Building is the fact that this affects our volunteer personnel. And what these two laws state is that we have to mitigate the vehicle exhaust from our engines. And we run into two problems. One, our building just will not, it's not structurally sound enough to install this vehicle exhaust system. And number two, it's cost prohibitive. We do not have the funds to meet these laws. So we are not able to house new apparatus due to the height, weight, and width. So our apparatus bay doors are not tall enough, they're not wide enough, and the floor won't sustain the type of weight that the vehicles are these days. So as you can see in these pictures, so these two pictures on the left-hand side of the screen are the side view of our Quonset Hut fire station. The top right picture is the back of the 1969 edition, and then this bottom right picture you can see the inside of the Quonset Hut. So it's not built to be a fire station, and it just doesn't work in today's day and age with all the vehicle size and the call volume that we're running. So our current fire apparatus, we currently have three what we call Type 1 engines. Those are city structure engines that run also as rescues. We have one what we call a grass engine. That's the small four-wheel drive pickup style fire engines that we use for grass fires. We have a water tender. We have a large rural area that does not have fire hydrants, so we have to pack all of our own water. We have two utility units. One is used as the fire chief's vehicle, and the other is used as our on-call officer vehicle. And being that the entire northern end of our fire district is the Tuolumne River, we have a water rescue boat. So engine 25 is our newest fire engine. It was purchased in 2014 after roughly 8 months of planning and design. It's the primary response rescue engine, which means it runs to all medical aids, vehicle accidents, and any type of fire call or rescue call that we get. Carries all of our structural, EMS, rescue, and vehicle extrication equipment. Engine 25, when it was put into service, replaced a 45-year-old fire engine that was still in service by the district. Engine 23 is a 1998 engine. It's our second out response engine. It's equipped very similar to engine 25 with all the rescue type equipment. It's also our mutual aid engine. So when we go mutual aid to another department for a fire or rescue call, this is the engine that we take. Again, carries all structure, EMS, rescue, and extrication equipment. Engine 21 is our 1991 fire engine. Third out response to all calls for service. It's also our reserve engine and a mutual aid engine as well. Carries structure, EMS, and also vehicle extrication equipment. Grass 51, that's the small pickup style fire engine I was telling you about earlier that we use for grass fires. It's a primary engine that we use to go to those types of fires, vegetation fires, and EMS calls as well. We also take this on mutual aid engine, or mutual aid calls, excuse me. We also take this engine when we go on our strike team response to the various fires up and down the state. Carries EMS and wildland fire equipment. Water Tender 63, purchased in 2010. is our primary water supply apparatus for areas without a fire hydrant. So we have roughly 34 square miles of our district that does not have any hydrants in it. So we have to pack all of our own water with us. Also can function as a reserve engine. It's also mutual aid apparatus. So we do a lot of mutual aid with our surrounding agencies, and this is one of our most called upon pieces of equipment. Carries water supply and light structural firefighting equipment. So Utility 91 is our 2012 utility vehicle that we have assigned to the fire chief. This is his vehicle to go to fire responses, EMS responses. He does respond from his home, so he has this vehicle assigned to him. Uses a command post on emergency scenes and carries EMS and light fire suppression equipment. Utility 92 is our 2014 Tahoe that we purchased in conjunction with the city of Hughson. We had a fire here locally that we had a very close call on. Almost got some of our personnel injured, so we did a review, and we needed a better command post vehicle for these large incidents. So this is what brought Utility 92 to us. Used as a command post on emergency scenes. It's also used by our senior officers to go on strike teams as a strike team leader. So our officers will go as the leader of these strike teams, taking them down to these large campaign fires. Carries EMS equipment, and again, we'd like to point out that this unit was purchased jointly with the city of Hughson. We have a great relationship with them, and they realized the positive effort that we were putting forth and assisted us with funding this vehicle for the community. Boat 3 is a 2009 Zodiac water rescue boat. It's the primary response unit for calls on the Tuolumne River and also the Stanislaus San Joaquin River, along with Modesto Reservoir, Turlock Lake, and also Woodward Reservoir. Boat 3 is part of the Stanislaus County Water Rescue Plan, and it's towed by either Utility 92 or Grass 51. One point that we would like to show to the community is this boat and the motor and all the equipment associated with it was purchased using chicken barbecue funds at no cost to the taxpayers. So not a single dime of taxpayer dollars out of our general fund budget was used to purchase this boat or the associated equipment. So some may say, well, how busy is the Hughson Fire District? In 2017, we hit a new record and responded to 937 calls for service. And you can see here, this is the breakdown of the calls that we responded to. We keep very close track of the calls that we run. We have to report these to the federal government to be able to apply for grant funding. So you can see we are incredibly busy for a mostly volunteer fire department. Also in 2017, for the month of December, we hit another record of 103 calls for the month. So that you can see we are incredibly busy. In 2002, we ran 589 calls. So you can see there's a vast uptick in the amount of calls that we run, roughly 60%. So what does fire protection cost these days? This is a question that we've fielded several times via the Nextdoor app and also Facebook. So each firefighter, when we hire a volunteer to service our community, this is, as soon as they walk in the door, this is what we have to provide them by law. So structural firefighting turnouts, 1 pair, which is a jacket, pants, boots, gloves, hood, helmet, and the associated equipment with it runs roughly $3,500. An SCBA mask, which you see right here, just the mask itself, we assign 1 to each of our volunteer firefighting personnel because each mask is fitted for that specific person. That mask with the associated regulator runs $1,600. The wildland fire turnouts, which you see on the right-hand side of the screen, is a lighter set of turnouts that we use for vegetation fires, and also going on our strike team responses runs $1,450. Because we respond to medical calls, we have to provide bloodborne pathogen protection, so an EMS jacket runs for another $450. Our pagers that we carry to alert us from home to emergency calls run roughly $1,200. And then we provide a yearly physical for each of our personnel to maintain their health, which is $750. So without radios or the air pack itself, right here, so we have the mask that we provide, but then the air pack behind it is separate. So just for a new volunteer walking through the door of our fire station, we have to provide them almost $9,000 worth of equipment. Now we add for our officers a portable radio so they can communicate. That's $7,450, and then our SCBA cost us $6,600. And this is all required by not only the federal government, but also Cal OSHA. So this isn't an option. We have to provide this for our personnel. So again, what does fire protection cost these days? A new rescue pumper, which is what we run here in Hughson, and our surrounding departments are the same. A new rescue pumper will cost us about $600,000. This is not something that we can just go to a lot and pick one off of. They don't make fire engines until you order them. So that's roughly what it would cost us today in 2018 to buy a new rescue pumper. Similar to engine 25. A new water tender will cost us roughly $350,000. A new brush engine, about $375,000. And a new command vehicle between $75,000 and $100,000. So it's incredibly expensive to maintain and purchase new vehicles. So who dictates these requirements and or these mandates? So who's telling the Hughson Fire District, this is what you have to do? So our structure and our wildland turnouts are mandated to be replaced at least every 10 years. So once they hit the 10-year mark, we have to replace them. We cannot turn and issue those out to anybody else. We have to basically take them out of service and get rid of them. Cal OSHA and the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, that's the governing body for the fire service in the United States. Both of those agencies tell us that we have to mandatory replace all of that gear. Our self-contained breathing apparatus, those air packs that the firefighters wear, are mandated to be replaced every 15 years. Again, that is NFPA, Cal OSHA, and then also NIOSH, which is the National Institute for Occupational Health and Safety. They mandate that we replace those every 15 years. Fire engines to be replaced every 20 years, that's an NFPA guideline. And then command and utility vehicles to be replaced every 10 years. Again, that is an NFPA or National Fire Protection Association guideline. So what is Measure U? So let's get down to really what is this? Measure U is a parcel tax increase to assist the fire district with the increased cost of providing fire protection. Through Measure U, it's expected to bring in around $600,000 in annual revenue. The funds for Measure U will be used to fund the following projects. Our dispatch fees, so that $38,000 that we mentioned earlier that was dropped on us, we have to pay that because we need to get dispatched. What we had to do was cut other areas to make this work. We couldn't just, again, go into the red. We have to maintain our budget. So we cut other areas to pay for our dispatching fees. So the second project will be new apparatus bays. That'll bring us up to Cal OSHA and also earthquake compliance. This is not going to be a Taj Mahal fire station. This is a very utilitarian style building that we plan on putting in if Measure U is passed. The biggest reason is to replace our Quonset hut and our old dilapidated fire station to allow for expansion of and purchase of potential new vehicles. Third project will be to provide timely replacement of fire apparatus and adhere to the NFPA 20-year replacement cycle. Currently, we have 2 fire engines that are one is 20 years old, the other is 27 years old. We need to get replacement vehicles for those. However, even if we were to be able to replace those with budgeted funds, which we don't have right now, we don't have a place to put them because our fire station is too small. The fourth project will be to hire 3 additional firefighters to provide 24/7 driver officer coverage. This is one of the biggest gaps that we have with our volunteer personnel, is the difficulty in providing driving licenses, the special licenses that we need to drive the fire apparatus. So again, hire 3 additional paid staff, fill in the personnel gaps we currently have, and staff our fire station 24/7. Now, we have also fielded some questions off of Facebook and also Nextdoor about the pay and benefits for these 3 additional paid staff. So let me elaborate on this really quick. The Hughson Fire District does not pay a PERS retirement. So that means we don't pay the exorbitant the amount of retirement money that you see. We have offer our employees a 401k based retirement that we can assist with them with a allotted amount of money each month. Secondly, we don't pay an exorbitant amount of money to our employees in salary and benefits. These new employees here, these driver officers, will be paid roughly $55,000 to $60,000 each year. And then we will also contribute a medical plan for them as required by the Affordable Health Care Plan. So again, we understand we are taxpayers of the district as well, so we understand that we need to be very, very frugal with our money. So we pay our employees as such. So again, Measure U, our current assessment, special assessment, is set at $46 per residential parcel. That's been the same roughly for the last 25 to 30 years without a noticeable increase. The proposed assessment would bring the average residential home up $130. And as you can see, as the units change, so does the cost. So the county, some of the questions that we've been fielding are, well, what is my home what will my home be assessed at? So if you have a residential home within the city of Hughson, or a residential home on property outside of the district with no other buildings on it, it'll be assessed $130. Only if the county assesses other large buildings, production facilities, anything in the light industrial or heavy industrial will fall under these other requirements. And as you can see on the bottom, public buildings such as schools, post offices and whatnot, and also church buildings are tax exempt, as they currently are now. The proposed new assessment averages out for the average single family residence at $10.83 a month. So very low. So the specifics of Measure U, it will be on the June 5th gubernatorial ballot. It is on the back page of the second sheet. You'll see it on the right-hand side. What that does for us is it keeps costs down, so we're not running a special election. Measure U will require a 66 2/3 yes vote to pass. We felt this important to bring to the entire voting public here in the Hughson Fire District. We had 2 options when we initially started working with our consultant. The first being that we could have gone to the property owners only and issued them a ballot. That would have been a 50+1 vote. So 50% of the vote yes plus 1 additional would have provided this a passing vote. We felt that this was too important to just leave to the property owners of the district, and we felt it important that everybody have a chance to vote on Measure U. So we put it on the gubernatorial ballot, and that's where the requirement for 66 2/3 comes from. If passed, the new assessment will show up on the 2019 property tax roll. So it will not be implemented immediately. You will not see it until you get your 2019 property tax roll. With that being said, some people have said, well, $130 sounds like a lot of money for an assessment. And when we look at the surrounding areas, it's actually very low. We're well below some of the other fire districts in our area. Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District, which is the areas to the north of the Tuolumne River, north of Hughson, issues $278 per single family home, and they service the areas of Empire, Waterford, Riverbank, and the Beard Industrial Tract in South Modesto. So you can see we're well below that $278. One other item that I do want to cover is that we also have had several comments on next door is the proposed increase each year. So we currently have a 2% annual increase that is available to the directors of the fire district. Now, some people have said, well, this is automatic, and that is actually false. The 2% is not automatic. The 2% increase has to be voted on each year by the board of the fire district. Beyond that, the board of directors for the Hughson Fire District can't just automatically vote yes every year for this increase. We actually have to show a need for that additional 2% to be legal and to be issued out to the public, excuse me. So you can see there, it's not just an automatic 2%. We have to show a need for that additional funding. And again, we're well below what other districts increase each year. The Stanislaus, again, going back to Stanislaus Consolidated Fire District, they have a 3% annual increase available to them. So being a smaller district, we felt 2% was prudent. So again, why do we need Measure U? Funding to the district, to the Hughson Fire District, has fallen short of the growing need. Again, we haven't had an increase in our assessment in 25 to 30 years. Yet the cost of providing that fire protection has gone up exponentially. We also need Measure U for the increased burden of dispatch fees that we were not expecting. Funding shortfalls from the recession, property tax reassessment. As everybody knows, our property taxes dropped during the Great Recession, but thanks to Prop 13, they are only going back up in short, very, very small increments, and that's all based off of Prop 13. We desperately need a replacement apparatus bay. Even if we were able to purchase new vehicles within our current budget, which we cannot, we can't purchase replacement vehicles anyway because of the size of our apparatus bays. And then we need to fund our apparatus replacement program because it's fallen behind due to a lack of funding. We currently have 2 engines in need of replacement, both engines 23 and, as we show here, engine 21. While we have a strong volunteer base, we are falling short on our engineers or our drivers. So that's where our paid staff will come in to fill those minor gaps. This plan will allow the most flexibility while also keeping costs down. As a side note, if we were to pay to have 3 people on duty at all times, 24/7, as similar to the city of Turlock, Stanislaus Consolidated, or Modesto, we would be paying upwards of $2 million annually just for personnel. So that's just the personnel cost. That is pay, that is medical benefits, and that's also retirement. So you can see we are doing this with our volunteer staff to keep costs down. So what will Measure U do for me as a taxpayer and a resident of the fire district? It'll provide your volunteer firefighters with the best possible equipment. These men and women are out every day As we showed you earlier, 937 times in 2017, they responded to a community member's call for assistance. It'll provide consistent, reliable dispatching for us. It'll provide 24/7, 365-day-a-year staffing for our fire station, which we currently do not have right now. Our station is only staffed Monday through Friday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you call 911 in the evening hours or on a weekend, our personnel are coming from their homes. Because we are volunteers, we don't staff our fire station 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So we are coming from home. That increases the response time to when you call for 911. By having these firefighters at the station, it will cut that response time roughly in half. Fast, meaning faster response times to your emergencies. It'll provide the community with a new apparatus bay that will allow the room for the needed expansion of fire services. As we get busier, we need more equipment to run those calls. So that's where that new apparatus bay comes into play. Supporting our strong volunteer base with limited paid staff keeps costs down. Again, roughly $2 million for 3-person full-time staffing. This community doesn't have that type of funding. So by utilizing a strong volunteer base and a limited amount of paid staff, we will be able to do the very same thing that other communities are doing for 2 and 3 times that amount of money. And then finally, we're going to meet all applicable local, state, and national standards by having compliant apparatus, compliant fire station, current dispatching, and hiring our additional personnel. We currently fall short in meeting these standards. So in conclusion, Measure U will give the Hughson Fire District and its personnel the funds needed to make these critical updates. Our apparatus bays, replacement fire engines, hiring 3 additional paid staff, and provide for reliable dispatching. We keep costs down by retaining the strong volunteer base and filling in the gaps with paid staff. Again, our volunteer staff, I can't say this enough, our volunteers, both men and women, don't get paid a single dime for what they do for our community. And we should be thankful for that. Even with the addition of the paid staff, we will maintain an 85% volunteer fire department. By approving Measure U, we're keeping local control of the funds by a board that continues to keep a balanced budget and the public trust. Throughout the years of the Great Recession, the Hughson Fire District made cuts so we maintained a balanced budget. We didn't go into the red one single time. So I think that's something that we as a fire district can be proud of. And Measure U directly improves the services to you, the residents, and the taxpayers in a cost-effective manner. And I think that's important because we're looking at all aspects of how this measure is affecting everybody. We are, the board of directors here for the fire district. We are taxpayers just like you are. We're residents of the fire district just like you are. We're not professional politicians. We realize that this is a struggle for some people, but these are upgrades that are critical and vital for responding to our community's need. So beyond that, in the future, what you will see is we're going to post this to all social media methods, both YouTube, Nextdoor, Facebook. What we're planning on doing is once we get this posted up, a member of the fire district will get onto Nextdoor and also Facebook, and we'll post in advance 1-hour sessions that we will be available to answer any of your questions that you may have on Measure U. So as usual, you can always contact us here at the fire department, both via email as well. If you look on the internet at HughsonFireDistrict.org, you will find our webpage, and at any time you can contact our paid staff again Monday through Friday 8 to 5 at 209-883-2863. On behalf of the Fire District of Hughson, I would just like to say thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please get a hold of us. Have a great day.